The name of story: the silence of the Bennington Triangle, a hunter's last track. They call it the Bennington Triangle, a place where the Green Mountains of Vermont hold a secret far older and colder than their peaks. Between 1945 and 1950, 5 people vanished there without a trace. Not just lost, erased. This isn't a story of a beast in the woods. It's a story of the woods itself. My grandfather, a man of iron will and sharper instincts, was a tracker in these very mountains back in '47. He'd found men lost in blizzards, women stranded by flash floods. He knew every whisper of the wind, every snapping twig. But then Paula Weldon disappeared, a bright young college student out for a hike, never seen again. Grandfather joined the search. He called it the most baffling hunt of his life. He said the forest around Glastonbury Mountain was different. Not just remote, but wrong. The air itself was heavy, dampening sound, making the usual forest symphony. The rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, simply stop. He'd trek through patches where the only sound was his own heartbeat. And then he'd hear it. A whisper, not a distinct word, but a sound like his own name, carried on a breeze that wasn't there. It would draw him deeper off the marked trails, towards places the map just labeled impenetrable. He'd find spots where the undergrowth was unnaturally still, as if holding its breath. He once found a small cairn of river stones, perfectly stacked, not far from where Paula was last seen. When he circled back an hour later, it was gone. Just gone. He swore he saw footprints in the frost one morning, perfectly human, yet impossibly long, leading into a patch of snow that hadn't seen a human step in weeks. They would appear and then simply end, as if the person had lifted off the ground. He knew then, something here wasn't just taking people, it was consuming them, not with violence, but with a terrifying absolute silence. The search was called off. Paula was never found. Grandfather never spoke of the triangle again. Not truly, but he started leaving offerings, small polished stones, at the edge of his property, facing the mountains. He'd never say why. Decades later, after he passed, I inherited his cabin. I found his old journal. The last entry was brief, faded, written in a shaky hand. The silence calls. It remembers. It wants its pieces back. Even the echoes. One evening last fall, I was hiking near the old trails. The sun was setting, painting the peaks crimson. And then the air grew still, too still. The forest went utterly silent. Not a bird, not a breeze, and I heard it, a whisper, faint, like my own name, carried on a breath that wasn't there. It felt like it was coming from everywhere and nowhere. It felt hungry. I ran like the devil himself was on my heels. I made it back to the cabin, locked the door, and that night I understood my grandfather's fear. Because the next morning, on my porch, I found a single small, perfectly polished river stone. And in its reflection, just for a moment, I saw a fleeting, impossible glimpse of a young woman reaching out from a fog that swallowed everything. A fog that was silent. The Bennington Triangle doesn't just make people vanish. It pulls them into an impossible quiet. And sometimes it sends out a whisper or a polished stone to remind you that it's still listening and perhaps still waiting for the next piece of its endless, silent collection.